Just before the SOP, I had introduced the concept of or the requirement of or the possibility of uh, a mindset reorientation by having purpose in life, for which I have quoted a significant paragraph from Harvard Business Review, July August 2010, by one of the top professors in Harvard Business School by name Clayton Christensen. When I was a Rhodes Scholar, I was in a very demanding academic program, trying to cram an extra year's worth of work into my time at Oxford. I decided to spend an hour every night reading, thinking, and praying about why God put me on this earth. That was a very challenging commitment to keep because every hour I spent doing that, I wasn't studying applied econometrics. I was conflicted about whether I could really afford to take that time away from my studies, but I stuck with it and ultimately figured out the purpose of my life. He has not mentioned the purpose of his life in the article anywhere because it is his purpose of life. Had I instead spent that hour, very important, had I instead spent that hour each day learning the latest techniques for mastering the problems of autocorrelation and regression analysis, I would have badly misspent my life. I apply the tool of econometrics a few times a year, but I apply my knowledge of the purpose of my life every day. It is the single most useful thing that I have ever learned. Yeah, Ashwini is the first one. My purpose of undergoing training. Where is Ashwini? Yeah, yeah. To gain clarity in my understanding of concepts, to develop an analytical mind, to learn the art of asking questions. That is yet to be clarified, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right. Hmm. Keep it in mind to reinterpret a question, to identify which aspect of a given question needs to be addressed, resulting in a different perspective or an extraordinary answer. Yes. Reading between the lines, you are already mastered, I suppose. Identify parallels between the parables and my day-to-day life experiences, the very purpose of it. To have more clarity and understanding about just to be there, to make the engines of intellect work, to be in the unique path, to enhance the skills of thinking, to get triggered on various levels, to enhance the confidence levels, to leave the mental blocks. Okay. To be with the nature process, to enhance creativity, to get, to get reminded of that I am exceptional, to experience another critical turning point, to experience the double, to move from knowing to doing to being. Regain, retain, and sustain health and vitality. It is of thinking. Realize and achieve my full potential. Return by coaching and mentoring those who appear on the path. Rebuild the scaffolding of the creature. Sustain till the last without degenerating. Stay competent, creative, compassionate till last. Realization starting with identifying my true self, Swabhava. Achieving the potential through training and mentoring. Achieve catness. Develop competencies of self to be able to coach those who appear in the path. Be able to identify and direct them if necessary to other fellow trainees and masters. Learn from those learning as well. He has given a background of his purpose. As a designer, I have been exploring my internal self and reflecting on my creative experiences, in particular, the flow experiences. Working on frameworks and researching from a creative perspective, or creator perspective, sorry, reflecting and connecting the dots that has allowed me experience flow, getting prepared for the flow, and documenting the pathway for the flow experience. The pathway to reach the flow experience is a struggle. My reflections and documentations would like to get it as teachings for creative professionals, along with the SKETE, skill, knowledge, exposure, experimentation, thinking, and experience framework that I have developed to reach flow. Oh, very good. From that is the derivation of statement of purpose. The GCG sessions are an anchor point for reinforcing my thoughts, bounce my reflections, and getting uh, his views on my explorations and flow experiences. Multiple perspectives being discussed during GCG sessions gives me a holistic perspective in approaching the above area of research, and as a person, it is preparing me to be grounded and strengthen myself to overcome the challenges. All right. To develop my thinking and analytical ability to the highest level, to develop the mindset of the Zen Master, to face death without fear, to study, reflect, and live the Bhagavad Gita, to know the purpose of my seeking the above. All right. Only this much I could collect because the SOPs are to be located among the files of emails. So, uh, anyway, whoever is, very surprising. Oh, there are three others. I don't know what is Mandras, and Amayas is here. Mandra, Amaya, and yeah. This is being presented. Just do not listen to this as her presentation. Look what are there for you too. Or uh, if you need a clarification on any of the concepts in her presentation, that also, Ashadi, why don't you ask? You are the one who want to learn to ask Socratic questions. That is one of the items in our agenda, but we have not yet touched. I would like to touch it maybe by the end of it. Okay? Because basically, what is Socratic question? Nobody knows. Because nobody knows what kind of questions you might ask. But I am the one who feels very clear and firm that it must have been based on referent perception and referent reality perception. So, because there is nothing beyond that is possible. Therefore, so when you become already clear about referent and referent reality of whatever is the topic or the object or the event or the situation or the project or whatever under observation, then that is what the message is about. The document is about some referent only. So if you are able to see the referent, then you can also project the possible, probable nature and contents and the boundaries of that. If you are not clear, then ask questions straight on that referent. And that is Socratic question. Because what is the purpose? To understand the reality. Whether Socratic questions or creative questions or analytical questions, the objective is to get a clear picture of the item being presented by the world around or the item being presented in a document. Or that which is concealing in the design of an event that has happened. That's all, finished. But you have to start asking questions. Come on, today. Yeah, all right, Minashi, are you ready? Remind you, do not leave it as her presentation or her ideas. And you can ask questions.
Good evening, one and all.
Good evening.
It's an honor for me to be revisiting my statement of purpose. A statement of purpose which I presented a year back. And now I have an opportunity to look back on my journey since and how the program has helped me translate many of those ideas into my being. So I have a split presentation. The left side has my SOP as
Wait, wait,
I
wait.
have
Only into your being?
into my knowing, doing, and being,
Yeah, yeah. All right.
all three. Okay. So on the left-hand side, I have my statement of purpose, which I presented on the 7th day of January 2021. And on the right side, my revisiting of it on this day, the 12th of January 2022.
That's beautiful. That's a very wonderful strategy. That's beautiful. I never expected that. Good. All right.
It's really a unique occasion for me to be doing a recounting of my experiences and my journey and to see how far I have traveled in it. My SOP was named Pathfinder. It continues to be so. And I continue to see myself as a pathfinder. Though the nuances of the journey have changed. When I initially presented my SOP, I defined the pathfinder as a person who goes ahead and discovers, or a person who shows others a path or a way. In the course of the last 1 year, I have reconceptualized that journey and hence the role of a pathfinder to a person who travels alone on an inner journey of self realization.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Uh,
And this is
Now,
what
by the
I have
way,
been doing
all
for the
right.
last 1 year.
Okay, by the way, this is your definition, right?
This is my definition.
Rather, your discovery uh,
Yes, this is my
of a new referent or a
this
new
is my reference.
yeah,
Correct.
or a new consistence for the existing word pathfinder. All right.
Exactly.
Okay. Brilliant.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful. Okay.
So when I presented my SOP on the 7th of January, it was an important day for another reason. It was my first occasion where I penned my thoughts in verse and I was inspired to write my SOP in verse. So this is what I wrote then. These are the first two paragraphs which I shall read. Dancing on a bed, all of 11, I see a reflection. What do I see? Who do I want to be? Images in movement, experiences in profusion. Three goddesses merged as whole, body, mind, and soul, breaking free from the traps of the known, waking up suddenly to a luminescence until then unknown. In this two stanzas of my poem, I describe my journey until the 7th of January. And the beginning of that journey was when I was 11 years old and I was literally dancing on the bed. When I suddenly turn to a full size mirror on the other side of the wall and look at myself. That day I had an unusual question which I asked myself as to who am I and who do I want to be. That was a unique moment for me because when I looked at myself in the mirror, I saw myself as three goddesses together. The three goddesses have supported me all through my journey in life, cheered me on in my hardest moments, and shared everything I had to share with them. But now, when I look back since the last 1 year, I see those lines as a summary of my past. as the foundation and as the seed of the search, which has been nurtured by my mentor, Dr. Prasad Sundarajan, and today is blooming and growing to greater possibilities. What this incident also helped me to do was to, what this journey, sorry, the last 1 year, through the various sessions, it has helped me create a collage of my stored memories, rearranging the pictures I chose from various points in my life.
Hi, teacher. Good evening.
That has been a sense making process for me where I have
Hi, Chandra.
re-looked at my life. And in this sense making process, two things have majorly helped me. One is semiotics, and second, the metaphors. I picked up symbols which symbolized and guided my journey. And the goddesses, I realized, were metaphors of those inner attributes I wanted to develop to the fullest extent possible.
At that point, you explain a little more. Goddesses as metaphors.
So, the three goddesses I saw in me, in my reflection, were Lakshmi, Kali, and Parvati, and Saraswati, sorry. So, at that point, those were the metaphors that came to my mind because they were the goddesses who were worshipped in my house, which again was quite unusual because in most Nair households it is either Guru or Ayyappan or Shiva who are worshipped. In my house, I had all goddesses, and that probably explains my endearment and my complete attachment to them. But as I went through the last 1 year of training with Master, I realized to go down to their inner attributes of what it meant to explore a creative side of myself as Saraswati. My love for language and words, my love for education and teaching, all of which was symbolized as her. I also saw in me a woman with very strong convictions, a woman who was unafraid of many things, a woman who spoke her voice and her mind. Attributes reflected in Kali as she's presented. She happens to be my most favorite goddess. And Lakshmi for her sense of aesthetics and abundance, whether it is of sharing, any kind of material or knowledge attributes and collections that I may have. Because I always saw Lakshmi as a symbol of highest level of aesthetic and abundance and a heart to give. One of the semiotic connections which I built throughout my journey was the blue lotus. The blue lotus, which when fully bloomed, showed its golden yellow core, a core which was very different from the color of the petal, thereby indicating that the core of me would be very different from the apparent attributes which I have displayed until now. So my journey has always been symbolized with that flower. But then in the last 1 year, I've realized that the inner golden yellow is in fact the inner luminescence of the original self. And I have tried to understand the concept of the original self and from there begin my search for it. This 1 year has been a journey of creative reconceptualization. And I can never emphasize this enough, and I often am short of words to describe how critical it has been in my life. Because what the creative reconceptualization has done is to recreate my collage of stored memories, to recreate a new identity which is full of successes and triumphs, a story which energizes me and gives me the confidence to move ahead to far dangerous terrains and unknown spaces. So I gained strength from that reconceptualization of my story and identity. But having said that, the most significant progress that I have made through this course has also been a melting of my identity, melting of my understanding of myself, melting of what I thought I was, to a level which I think can be described as attuning with nature. And I say this with confidence because now when I look at what I do and what I like and how I see myself, I almost cannot recognize the person presenting on the 7th of January 2021. In the last 1 year, I have not only shed 9 kilos of weight, but also the several unnecessary baggages which weighed me down in my journey. I feel lighter, freer, and nobody prepared to go into the unknown. The third stanza of my poem reads like this. Standing near a peak, I look afar, sea of minions, anxious and bewildered, seeking a mentor, awaiting a seer, a light to enlighten, a direction to go further. At that point, when I wrote my SOP, I had conceptualized or I had thought of my future role as being a mentor. And these lines convey how many people would be requiring that guidance. Probably many. And this was written in the context of COVID, where the indications were very clear that the economic hardship and the social displacement and social disruption would cause a lot of psychological problems for people. So it is in that context that I wrote about the number of people and what they would be looking for. And I thought that my purpose was to work towards becoming a mentor to them. This year, I started playing the role of a mentor to my students. I have almost a dozen now. It's a small number, it's a trickle, but I hope that numbers will grow. From my conversations and interactions with them, I'm quite sure that they certainly need a beacon. Somebody who can help them navigate through the darkness of confusion and self-doubt. And I write these two terms because in my interactions with this set of people whom I'm currently mentoring, these were the two ideas that were two problems that seem to be most prominent and common to most of them. A sense of confusion, of not knowing what to do, and also deep self-doubt in their capability to manage their current state of existence, whether it was with their work or with respect to their families and social surroundings. The fourth stanza of my poem reads as follows: A life of service I seek, of love and replenishment. Show me the peak I need to reach, master all that I need to teach. So these were the closing lines of the poem. And I'm happy to say that in a small way, I have begun on the path of service. And hopefully, love and replenishment will be those steadfast attributes of all my responses and behaviors. So, this paragraph or this stanza remains unchanged, and it inspires me in all my interactions and makes me make sure that what I give back is love and replenishment. In terms of the mindset, when I began, I felt like a little kid who was out on a path of discovery. So, creative excitement was the predominant mindset that operated. Today, it's more of joyous calmness. And I have discovered and I relish being in that state of joyous calmness. That's my predominant emotion today, and I'm completely enjoying it. Thank you. I'm open to your feedback and comments.
Of course, it is beyond any normal feedback, Meenakshi.
Yes, sir.
The if it is like the answer is inside the question itself. So whatever you have mentioned is so have a clear finality, and it is like on top of Everest. So when you're on top of Everest, you don't need any feedback. So especially that I was little surprised that there are two terms: joy and calmness. So it's a proper conceptualization of your state of mind. Of course, the state of mind or the state of being must be much, much more than that. Perhaps those two are the only words found more or less approximating what you wanted to report. That's all. Of course, most of the words in your statement, they're all approximations. At this level of experience and perception and subtlety, words are mere approximations only. But you have done, I think, the best possible with the available set of words. Yeah.
Thank you.
But can you also give a few sentences about the kind of attention, kind of work, kind of doing that you have been doing?
Yeah, most
Also,
certainly.
because
Yeah,
by my talking alone, this just cannot happen. Of
yes.
course, by talking cannot lead to this. It was your doing. So, can you just make some a few more lines in 1 or 2 minutes about significant doings which you tried? Not necessarily specific doings. No, I hope you understood the question.
Yeah,
But,
I
yeah.
did. Yeah, I did. So let me put it this way. There were three things, three basic strategies that I followed throughout the year while I was attending the sessions. Number one was listening to every word that was spoken, not only by Master, but by all participants, and taking copious notes. They
Okay.
help me they help me read and reconceptualize and reconnect to those ideas which I would think about every day before, after every class, before I went to sleep. So those keywords I would internalize by thinking about them once again. So that is something which I've done after every class, every day. I continue to do so. I think that took care of the understanding, the knowing part. The second important thing, strategy, was again not directly part of the session, but part of being mentored by you, was the rasayanas. I have had it for exactly 1 year without missing a single day uh, throughout. And I think that has helped my weight loss and agility and strength of the body, particularly strength of my body. Because I remember when my father was alive, he would fall down many times. He's fallen at least 8 times. And each time I would pick him up and put him back on his 2 feet, or make him sit, or sit on the sofa or on the bed. My father was 78 kilos and I'm 62. And I don't believe it was my body alone that lifted him. And if it was my body, then I know from where the strength came. On one occasion, I was not able to lift him at all. So I called 112, the police station, and 2 constables came and they picked up my father and put him on the bed. It took 2 constables to pick him up. Then I realized what I was doing. And they could not believe it, that I did it every time. So that rasainic intervention was extremely important in preparing my body, not only in terms of strength, but also, I think, in terms of clarity of mind and sharpness of attention, which has helped me so much in everything that I've done. The third strategy was to do all the practices that you suggested, whether it was attention, whether it was chanting my mantras, which again, I have never missed a single day, and the other meditation practices which you have suggested, which, as you know, I continue to do. They have majorly helped me, majorly. I cannot emphasize enough how helpful they have been in bringing me where I am today. So while the sessions help me understand and attempt doing many of those, the body was nurtured by the rasayanas and the spirit by my practices. So for me, this whole year has been a 3-pronged strategy of working on the body, on the soul, and the mind together. And whatever I experience today is the effect of all the 3.
Okay. Very, 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 very creatively conceptualized. Whatever you conceptualized. Good.
Thank you.
But I have a suggestion. Better avoid the use of the term soul when you talk to a general population. We have a clear concept of spirit.
Sorry. Yes,
That's okay, because soul has other connotations and it has some other meaning actually. The term soul is there in philosophy, which has an altogether different meaning, which we never supported, we never discussed about that. That's all having a what you call a public connotation, because the general population can only tolerate that. But the one accessible to you, the one that happened in you, is opening of the spirit. The pathways of the spirit got opened across your entity. Spirit meaning energy. That's all, energy.
That's
Everything is energy. Heat is energy, light is energy, sound is energy, touch is energy, everything is energy. So intelligence is energy, intellect is energy, the mind is energy, all supported by the general energy supply of the physiological, anatomical, biochemical processes, biochemical, electrical processes in a technical term. which in turn is intensely connected with the electrical or similar properties of the air and the water and the space and the ether and all that of the nature process. Yeah. All right. Okay, Minashi, wonderful. If
Sir,
anybody wants to,
Thank you, Master.
sir, I
anybody,
have a, sir,
yeah. All right.
talking about the spirit, talking about the spirit, even if one is not tuned correctly to the spirit, even then the spirit is only operating.
Yeah, of course. Spiritually is operating. Okay.
Then,
But here the question is to what extent your attention, your beating around the bush can tap it. And when you tap it, you may not know that. You may not get any knowing. The resultant experience would be the overall, let us say, overall quality or overall style, overall design, overall beauty, overall elegance of the doings and state of being you experience. Like the training program was not about what Minashi said, to achieve that state of joyfulness, state of calmness. That was directly a consequence of that opening of the spirit, your attention. Like, let us say, the light is, you see the light. You want to read a book and the light is there. Unless you look at it, you will not see the source of it. And then you are aware that you are able to read it because of that light. Or rather, that light impinges into your body also. You come out in the open. Like the sun is shining outside, unless you are exposed, that so-called vitamin C will not enter the body. But it was something like that. So spirit is operating in a primary core sense only. But at the peripheral sense, it is the direct anatomical, biochemical processes out of the food intake, out of the air intake, and out of the certain chemicals already provided in the body, like the hormones and the intestinal juices, which responds to the food materials, and the receptor cells in the lungs and the blood corpuscles that responds to the prana, I mean the oxygen supply. So these are the things by which we are alive and we are able to do the activities of the body. Our intelligence or general knowledge or awareness of the environment is working, by which our attention, our observation, our thinking, etc. are working. Spirit is at the root cause. Spirit is at the root fire. That is the way. It is not directly involved. It was there. It is like the initial, the continuous sparking, like the firing of the spark plugs in an engine. Okay. Without that firing, the engine cannot work. But actually, the vehicle moves by the work of the engine. Vehicle does not move by the electrical sparking. Do you know something called a spark plug, Veena? Yeah. In other words, there are cylinders and pistons in the vehicle, right? Yeah. It is like it is, let us say, your car is like four guns attached to a crankshaft. When the bullet returns, that's all. Again, refiring. Let us say that is the major principle of an automobile engine. But that bullet is fired because of an electrical spark, without which the engine cannot work. Okay, that spark is the real cause of firing of the petrol mixture, But the vehicle moves not by the spark, but by the piston movement. So, similarly, the body processes, the intelligence processes, the intellect processes, the mental processes are all working by varied engines. But at the core of it, all those engines are triggered by that continuous fire, a little bit of a fire at the core of the body, which is actually located around the abdominal region, which enters into the body of the embryo around between 75 to 110 days, and which is the fire which leaves the body at the precise point of death. So that is the spirit. But that's But that is just by knowing. You cannot feel it normally. But when you have so-called other experiences sitting in meditation, like you sit down looking at the tip of the nose, or you look at a point on the white paper, or strongly incubate on some mantra or some deity's figure and all that, that final triggering of some sudden change or sudden shift, a sudden tilting of that kaleidoscope happens by the work of the spirit only. It cannot work by any of your knowing, any of your reflection, any of your discussion, analysis, etc., etc. So the tilting of the engine, tilting of the kaleidoscope will happen only at the spirit level. That's why it is so alien or so distant. That's all.
So when it is tilted, you get another view.
Yeah, that view is the original view. That view is like a shaking, because let us say the human entity is kind of an empty organism at the beginning, and a whole lot of things are put into that. Okay, and there was no awareness about that body or vehicle is given to that. Just learning things in the world in order to survive. Okay, that's what 97% of the people are doing. Now, for the human intellect, by the power of the neuronal firings available, human beings have a possibility to boomerang, to turn back the tide, to see itself. Because of so much of power available. Okay. So, when the turning back happens, you will see everything of you. Because right now, what is a human being? Just like that, getting up in the morning, feeling good, feeling bad, whatever, all the activities are done, whether the activities of a servant or a master or a disciple or a guru, or all these functions are being done, and the human entity dies one day. But what was that operating inside? That can be identified. So that opportunity is given. Oh, this is what it is all going on in this body. Otherwise we are just a kind of a robot only, internally controlled robot. Do you feel the difference? Are you able to differentiate it?
Is
No,
that
right.
Bhagavad Gita you was speaking about self is the enemy of the self?
That
That
is at a peripheral level. That's all at all those things are at a very peripheral level, operational level, social functioning level. Here spirit is at the individual level, at the root level, when you are sitting alone, or when you are traveling alone towards the last point, or when you want to identify the core in you. The others are at the different orbits. Like you have to talk to anybody else, you have to relate with people, you have to be exposed to them. At that level. So, okay, when you talk about that, that is why Krishna also told him about these central points also. Krishna could have already told him many other things without telling this also. But he told that also. He was not just telling be confident and take the bow. He was doing a precisely creativity therapy to make him arrive at the decision by giving him various significant points about the very entity. So that he discovers, yeah, okay, I have to take the bow. So it is in that context only self-doubt, etc. At the level of spirit, it is the original child, A child is not at all scared of anything. It is with all the knowings of you, you get a chance to see the original spirit. Then you are complete. Then you know what is it. You see, just to reflect every one of you. You see, this is what is sitting there right now. Is one of the flesh, blood, born creatures of this planet Earth, like a cat or a bird. Okay, there are so-called physiological processes which you all know. Okay, in that so-called, you are aware of all these things going on around you in this point of right now, 9 o'clock. chronological time, 9 o'clock right now, you are aware of your surroundings, you are aware of your body sitting there, etc. So-called you are conscious. Okay. Who or what is getting conscious about all this? There you, as I always use the concept, there is some kind of a finality. There is someone inside you, uh, contained inside that flesh blood born prison, uh, taking note of all these things and feeling about it and feeling, or let us say, I would say, artificially complete about it. Like Veena, right now you feel your consciousness and you feel final about the you. Okay. Similarly, there is another thing we feeling fine about oneself inside Meenakshi, inside Ashwati, inside Anu, inside Ramesh, inside Ganesh, inside Tintin, inside what you call Naveen, inside me. What is the finality of that you? I am feeling, I am suffering, etc. I don't know in which better way I can talk about this. You see, you are like, a canvas, and whatever is in that canvas is the you. And you feel final about you. You feel complete. You feel, whatever you feel is final inside you. You are not aware what is the feeling inside Ashwati. There is a similar consciousness in her. But you feel your consciousness has its own identity separate from that of Ashwati.
Yes.
But actually it is not separate. Of course, you will not be able to know what Ashwati is thinking right now. You may not be able to know her knowledge in architecture. But that experiencing aspect in Ashwati, as she is experiencing, is identical as that in the you. But right now, you feel actually disconnected with her. And that disconnect will go when you are in tune finally with the spirit. Because that spirit is identical there also. Then also do not mistake, you will not feel exactly what Ashwati would feel tomorrow morning or tomorrow at lunchtime. But you will sort of, you will go sort of out of you. See, you sit there and feel worried about the world. It is happening in the world. It is happening in the government. COVID is going on. Murder is happening. Theft is happening. Antisocial activities are happening there. People are behaving like this. Neighborhood people are like this. Servant is like that. Policeman is like that. You see, you sitting inside that body is making perceptions about all these things. And there is a finality of that you in you. What is that you? On what basis is that finality? There must be a similar thing in the cat also. There is a similar thing in the bird also. Okay, of course. But what is so ultimate? Why it is so firm an identity, which is actually a false identity, not necessarily false in a wrong sense. That is the identity normally possible. But we are discussing about so-called identity where your consciousness will get out of the boundaries defined into you from childhood onwards, Veena. That's the state which I can talk about. But there's a possibility that you will experience it. But you are the one who want to get out of at the time of so-called disappearance, at that time of when the consciousness becomes gradually withdrawn, like the seventh slide we talked about yesterday, consciously withdrawing the senses like the tortoise. At the point of death, it will get automatically withdrawn because there is no other way. And the world will become kind of black and white. So in that withdrawal, at that point, your consciousness will see the you lying down there. Right now, that consciousness is very concretely designed and defined inside the you, out of training. Okay? At that point of time, that last moment of consciousness will spread outside your body, and you will actually sort of sense, like you are sensing the presence of somebody else. You will sense that creature lying down there into this creature of that body sitting there now. Uh, there is a name attributed to that creature, Veena, and who is responding from that creature inside? What is responding? Some learned responses only, Veena. By rigorous training of the environment, continuously interacting with the little baby, with the fresh mind, continuous interaction, attention is flowing on to them, and all the senses are derived, some artificial point inside it. That's all. And this artificial point, actually, if you remember, if you are aware, at many points, this artificial point of locus of control inside will vanish when you are enjoying something very beautifully, some wonderful music, not throughout, certain wonderful turning point, even when you watch a film or when you read a great part of a fiction or when you come across a wonderful, unique experience, an act happening outside, at that point, actually, your consciousness completely goes out of you. So daily negotiate. What is that finality? What inside you is being there and making calculations, making perceptions about the world, my condition, my state, my family, my wife, my children, my husband, my house, my location, etc. All these are valid. I am not telling they are not valid. Let them be there for the sake of the drama. Let them all be taken care of. But the fact, Satyameva Jayate, the fact is that just a human creature, flesh blood creature, go take your attention to that flesh blood creature, Veena, with eyes and ears and all that. Where is Veena inside? Where is whatever inside? They are all continuously reported to you. Into that consciousness, the sense organs and the thought process are continuously reporting to you what is going on around you. In that continuous reporting to you, the you is maintained. That reporting to you is addressing to you, the familiar Veena from childhood onwards. When that reporting is stopped, then there is nothing. That Veenaness is maintained by that continuous reporting made by you right now. When your daughter comes or when your friend comes, they will do the reporting. And of course, you are hearing that, and that Veenaness is maintained. Everything around you is addressing you. What? Even if they don't address you, you yourself address you. Get the point, Meenakshi? That addressing is the problem. That is learned. When you get out of that addressing, wow, what a wonder it is. You are just flying. I mean, not physically. You are just you feel the body of you the way the tree. Not that, don't mistake. You will not feel the leaf of the tree like you will feel a pinch on your finger. No. But you feel sort of what you call oneness with them. You would feel for the tree, sort of. That's all. Because you are physically different entities. But spirit-wise, I don't want to use the word spiritually. Spirit-wise, you are identical entities in this planet Earth. Only thing is that other entity structure is chlorophylls or whatever. Your entity structure is what you call whatever. I know and all will know that what is the organic cell structure. That is all. And when you can come to know that. Of course, it is not compulsory, but be aware of that. Even this awareness continuously negotiate every day. What is that finality inside you? That final judge sitting inside the court of you, receiving reports from the advocates of all kinds. Everything is reporting to you. Understand this critical point. Your senses are reporting whatever is reporting now. Now your senses, visual sense is reporting all the visual details. Your auditory sense is reporting whatever you are hearing. Your body sense is reporting your familiar feeling of the body. If that reports are cut, let us say tuck, then what remains? Okay, that then that without that reporting, you cannot maintain that Venus, that familiar you. That's all. Continuous reporting. That is why when all conventional methods of meditation wanted people to go into a lonely place, a solitary place, and to sit alone. Because just the presence of another person, even if that person is absolutely unknown to you, that itself is a reporting that there is another human being sitting there. Whereas when you are in a non-discrete environment like a parnasala, like a natural setting with leaves and wood and all those things, which will not report to you anything and anything specifically man-made. Okay, look at Veena, the world. Everything around is man-made. Even the small hut or big house or naligat or ettugat or other concrete, double story, three story, whatever, they're all artificial settings. So go to that kind of a location, and because why do you go to that kind of a forest location? There only natural things are there. They will not report to you anything. In order to do meditation, you don't go to a mango, what you call mangrove, or what you call, what is that, garden or anywhere. You have to go to a forest because basically a human creature is a creature of the planet Earth. Planet Earth is originally a forest. Forest meaning not thick forest everywhere. What is the original person, like we talk about the human being, what is the original form of the planet Earth? Not a single building. Agreed? Not a single stone taken from one place to the other. So forest is somewhat maintained in that way. So in that forest, normal reporting does not happen. First 2-3 days, you may remember some of the things, etc., etc. Now after 3-4 days, then you are in that momentum of that forest. There nothing is reporting to you anything which maintains that original you. Sorry, that normal you. Get the point? Veena at home, that Veenaness, even if let us say Ashwati and Anu does not talk to you at all, years together. But their presence is enough. That presence is reporting to you that they are your daughters and that you are their mother. And your house will report to you that this is my house. Not in a reporting language. But when you go out to a forest, nothing reports to you to remind you the identity of the so-called Veenaness of you. Finished. That's all.
But we'll remember our house and all those things.
That after 2-3 days, why do you remember? No, I'm talking about the one who goes there to sit down and meditate on the one which is knowing all those things. Even otherwise, time. Okay. Let us say you are abandoned in the forest. That is why in the conventional Indian tradition, Balyam, Kaumaram, Yauvanam, what you call Garhatyam, then and finally Vanaprastha, because by that time that so-called consciousness is saturated with all the experiences. Consciousness get bored because that's a property of consciousness. For example, Asadi is taking her keyboard and going on playing ta 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 ta. Let us say it's a good tune, but she is going on playing that from morning till evening. You will be fed up. You would like to run away from that house because that's a system property. So by that Vanaprastha stage, that normal mind of the people get so-called nothing more. So then they don't have to try. Actually, they don't exist. Children are all married. They have their children. They are all in their own world. And by that time, by maturity, there is a realization that okay, now my term is over. My role is over. Then they are ready to try what is that all about? What was this all about? What is this creature? What is this creature? That itself is a wonder, Veena. We are taking it for granted. That itself can be a search. What is this creature doing here? What is this creature? Okay, you have a consciousness. Okay, that is an advantage. But look at your own creature. What is that? You call it a human being, you call it a male or a female or a man or a woman, elderly, young, whatever it is. Actually, do you understand when I say you are taking your creature for granted? Let us say you are the only one human being in the world. Let us say you see uh, your body, and the first time you see your face reflection in the water, what will be the state, for example? Another question. By the way, can you ever look directly on your face? The most critical part of your body. You just cannot look directly on your face. And do you know, if you look directly on your face, it is a moment of terrible shock if you are able to see. Not that it is ugly or anything. That's the first thing. Now you see the reflection in the mirror only. But with your own eyes, when you see your face, and do you believe you can see that? Yes, you can see.
The mirror.
But that is by the wonder of the pineal gland and the eye wiring mechanism. In fact, when you sit down with a relaxed body and keep on looking at the tip of the nose, it is not the tip of the nose, like eyes turned inwards, but focusing on your nose. That is the only projected part. Then, after some time, you will see the nose, and there will be a sudden vision of your face.
Yes, yes. That happens when we do yoga. That kind of
You have seen your face.
something, not exact. I have not thought much about it, but something like that.
Yeah, it is right. It is only something like that. But it is that much, it is good. Okay. Even if you see your nose completely, you will feel something very different. So what I mean to say is that forget about all the side stories. You look at you just look at your own human creature as a wonder, as something it is a part of the planet Earth. Whereas consciousness is produced by that. Okay, but we have the advantage of that consciousness taking a choice to look at itself, which the cats and the rats do not have because of the abundance of energy. So much of energy is overflowing that overflowing energy can turn back and look at itself. So then your fingers, you look at your hands. It is a mystery. Look at your body. It is walking by your intent. It is sitting there by your intent. It is getting up by your intent. It's just to see. If a lion or a cat is doing that, for example, you have a cat, you have a dog, you put a name to that cat or dog, you call it, and when it comes to you, you feel so thrilled. This is the most powerful human being at your command. But unfortunately, the commanding agent happens to be contained inside this body. That's the problem. But your control on your body is just subtle. You just do not have any direct control on your body. It is a gradual approximation happened over a period of 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 years. So look at the way a child is trying to move the body. Physiological reflex movements are there. By the time it achieves control on just picking up a spoon, it takes almost 9 months. What control? It is an approximate control only. It is an approximation. It is never a direct control. So the you is placed in that body very tentatively only. Even when you do the greatest mastery of gymnastics or shooting a gun just on the target or doing so much of wonderful things with the hand or the eyes, so in all this body, Even then, the linkage is absolutely indirect. There is no linkage at all. There's a linkage of intent only.
Can you explain that, sir, once more?
Yeah, I mean, so you try to lift your hand. It is coming up, right? I said your intent to lift your hand has no direct control by a wire, like any physical wire. No, you're just intending. That's all. So that intending aspect is the you, which is maintained very tentatively only. And when you are able to negotiate all this available noise and getting rid of all this noise, that intending aspects will be gradually revealed to you. Just a tip, then you will get some hold on that.
Sir, do you mean to say like a remote control has that moment of connection with a device like that? There is a
Even,
moment.
in fact, something roughly comparable to that. Even the remote control, let us say that button is pressed, okay, but there is not even that kind of a relationship between that aspect which you decided to ask me that question and the movement and of the body. But we have control. As I told you, look at the control of a circus star. Look at the control of a great dancer. Look at the control of a painter. Look at the control of a thinker. So these are there. But that has been achieved over so many years of intending. That facility is there. That's why it is possible. It has been possible by rigorous training at an age. That is why. So any moment when you come with this kind of perceptions and clarity, you are likely to be much more open, much more wider, much more free flowing. This is what the Ramesh calls the flow. There is no restrictions of the I, my knowing, my this, my that. All those reporting will be uh, like newspaper reports. You read a newspaper report, you don't feel anything. Some reports are colored by extra reported mindsets that it is about me. That is again another mindset only, which also is logical, referent realities. Yeah, I have no job, I have no income, very logical. And when you spend every minute or when you achieve every millisecond of movement towards that operating principle inside you, you feel what Meenakshi talked about. She was not trying to get joyfulness. You cannot directly access it. So joyfulness is a consequence of that. Like a balance is a consequence of behaving with the bicycle. You cannot directly access vehicle balance. So that's why it is taught that real self-discovery is the only way to joyfulness. No money, no richness, no possessions, nothing.
So I had been going for an Ayurvedic treatment last week. So when they were treating my hand, I felt momentary kind of feeling that there's no disconnect or anything, but I felt it was not my hand; it was some other thing that was there. But there was no that kind of feeling happened, but it was momentary and it went away.
Of course, that was a great triggering point. That happened to you because already your consciousness is exposed to this kind of
Yes, yes,
thoughts which you
of
did.
course, yes,
But
yes.
that moment is enough. Even that single moment will have its consequences, Veena. That is because of the neuronal processes. It is like a boy, first, I don't know whether you have tried cycling. The boy first time feeling a little balance on the pedal. That's all. Next day there is extra balance on the same pedal. Again after 2 3 days only he gets balance on the seat. Similarly, that momentary glance of the passing horse, that was beautiful. This is why uh, you need little bit of what you call familiarity or exposure to a so-called guru or so-called guide. Because unless it is told, because the system has been trained by reported feedback. Otherwise, it should be some. That's what I said in the beginning also. Every day you are coming across several moments of satori, like a film. You're watching a film, suddenly there is a brilliant scene. For about 1 second or 3 seconds, you forgot everything. See, that was a moment. But it will not be sustained at that point of time. Or that's why you should see great poetry. That's why people say you should have great literature, great poetry, great philosophies, etc. You should read. Uh, in between, you may have such moments, and such moments accumulated, like statistical, adding one after the other, like a slight boiling. At one point of time, it will reach the critical turning point, and sudden explosion, sudden boiling will happen. That was beautiful. But actually, you have had a similar experience much before also. But Veena has a particular problem. You are extremely logical.
Yes.
That is your problem. In this case, that is of advantage for you in a different sense. But that same logic is a mental trap which will not allow you to accept anything without that logic. These are all beyond any logic.
Yes. And also,
Because all logics are applicable to daily proved, routine, maintained things. Human beings discover a lot of logic for physiological processes. They are all general rules only. Physiological processes do not follow any logic. Or if at all there is a logic, that's of a different dimension. It's a logic of no logic, or logic of absolute randomness. Yes,
also, last few days I've been feeling that somebody is actually is coming down the steps or something like that. I will sense when I turn around, nobody will be there. I feel Ganesh is coming into the room. I clearly see him,
Ah,
but nothing will
beautiful.
be there. But
Beautiful.
what?
All right. Go on, go on, go on.
Yeah. So something very funny.
Yeah,
I was.
exactly. This is your response to that. You
Yes.
are just not ready to accept it. You feel it as very funny. That is you are very, very much logical, Veena. You are an exceptionally logical person that you don't know. That logic is of no advantage.
If you were in my position, what you would have felt?
That is again a logical question only. Uh, You ask anyone, everybody who heard it felt something very wonderful about it. That's because something like what I just now said happened. Your consciousness was already gone out of you. When your consciousness is beyond your body, you may feel many, many other things in your environment. That's why also I mentioned that you have to be a little bit careful also. That's why I told you in the beginning, when you are doing something, in the beginning I told you keep some water with you, which I want to tell Minash also. Uh, because like you carry a gun, not to shoot it all the time, but if it is required. So, Vina's logic does not accept that. That's why. If you accept that only, then there is a beauty happening. Like a Kathakali, people do not see Kathakali, then how can they enjoy? And the beauty of Kathakali lies at a subtle distance. Whereas the appeal of the cinematic dance is very obvious. Fast and smart movements of the body, very obvious. Anyway, uh, one day you will be trapped. The most logical person will have a moment of all logics being thoroughly broken. Anyway, these are all not the. At the same time, I say all these things because we are talking about. I told you, we are talking about saplings. If you want to go nurture it, you do it. If you don't want, throw it away. That's all. Or keep it in the garden. Don't take care of it. By chance, if it grows and one day it produces a fruit, I will be getting it. Otherwise, we are discussing possibilities because it is a part of my little bit of an egoism also. We can say so. That I want to tell you the peak of possibilities of human evolution. Because that is genius choice. Because genius choice is genius choice is genius choice. It can go to ultimate. So I am talking about the ultimate also. So whether to choose that, there is no rule that you should choose the ultimate. Even little bit is quite enough. Like the wonder you are doing with the creativity therapy, that's well and enough. The wonder you do with graphology, that's enough. Or the wonder that Meenakshi does in the classroom, that's enough for the time being. Everything else is her extra work. That is her choice.